Next, we'll dive into a necessary conversation on preventing youth violence. We'll be hearing from the MBK communities in Chicago and Richmond that are on the cutting edge of this work. Please welcome to the stage Miguel Cambray from Ready Eye, Chicago, Sam Vaughn from California's Office of Safety, Assistant Chief Bisa French from Richmond Police Department, and our moderator, Karol Mason, President of John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Please, everybody, give them a round of applause.
Good morning. Can't hear you. Good morning. All right. I was going to say, I thought I was with people of color. Can't hear you. That's right. So it's always a powerful moment when we get to hear from Shaka Senghor. Can we give him another round of applause? And additionally, I'd like to acknowledge my colleague, Senegal Mabry, who serves on the My Brother's Keeper Alliance Advisory Council with me, and he is our future. So let's give it up for Senegal again as well. So every time I'm in the room with Senegal and all of the young folks here looking at us, you know, that's what gives me hope, because I know our future is intact and in good hands because of the young people in this room. So let's give you guys a round of applause as well. So there's nothing more important for us than securing our future and the future lives of the power and the promise of the young people in this room. And so the MBK Alliance has maintained a laser focus on youth violence prevention and reduction as one of the two overarching pillars of the program now. So today we're going to hear from leaders who work each and every day to keep our young people safe and focused on reaching their full potential. So let's begin with our guests from Chicago. So let's get the applause from Chicago out of the way before I transition to them. Yes. So please welcome Miguel Cambray from Ready Chicago. So.
Buenos dias.
Yes, I know that Chicago is well represented, but we'll get to the California people later. So Miguel, you are here from a fairly large MBK contingent, MBK Rising attendees from Chicago. And so can you tell us a little bit about Ready Chicago and how you and your colleagues are working to keep young people safe?
Buenos dias, thanks for having us. Chicago truly is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and I hope I do it justice today. Because we're definitely an innovative city. We're definitely a city that really drives a lot of culture, a lot of richness. So it's unfortunate that the stigma of violence in Chicago sort of has paralleled to sort of its beauty as well. So hopefully we could represent that. Ready Chicago is definitely an initiative that's innovative in trying to address pervasive violence and those that are most to be impacted by gun violence specifically. And it's an initiative that's a co-op or collective with an array of community partners and specifically outreach workers, transitional job services. And the idea of the model is to take folks who are most to be impacted by gun violence or commit gun violence and provide for them two things. The first is cognitive behavioral therapy, and the second is job training and job placement. And we're working with a very specific population that is at the 94th percentile of risk violence. So that means that our guys have a 1 in 5 chance of committing a shooting or being shot at a 400th percentile on average. So we're working with a very specific population in some of the very specific communities in Chicago that are most impacted by violence, with a collective of outreach professionals and citywide collective. So we don't do it alone. Ready Chicago does not do it alone, but we're designed to work with some of the most sort of specific individuals with high levels of talent in some very rich neighborhoods, providing them, in most cases, their first chance.
So this is our opportunity to celebrate the wonderful work that's happened and making sure that people out in the communities understand what you're doing. So what does it mean to you to be able to share your work on this stage and in community with so many other people here who are here to fight for our young people every day?
I think this entire last couple of days has just been inspiring and innovating by what you all are doing across this country, what my panelists here are doing in their respective cities. To be on this stage is to be a part of this family, this familia as a collective, where we care about violence, we care about young people, and we care about futures. So in Ready Chicago, we believe in real talk, real hope, and real love. So being on this kind of stage and hearing the other panelists, hearing the president, hearing other folks talk about love, is a continuing inspiration that we're Ready Chicago is not alone in the work that we do, and coming to families like this one, it reminds you why we commit to the work that we do. So it's definitely important that we all get involved in what we do and invest in people that we have written off as a society, as you just heard in the speaker previous to us, about folks do have a future, and we want a better future for communities of color, so specifically men of color.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the great work that you do. And we're here now to also talk about the great work that's happening in Richmond, California. So we're joined by Sam Vaughn from the Richmond Office of Neighborhood Safety. And Richmond is home to RISE Center, which was a seed grant award winner of the 2018 MBK Community Challenge competition, and the Office of Neighborhood Safety was a key partner with RISE Center. So you and your team are intensely focused on youth violence reduction, albeit taking a different approach than Miguel just described, which is why we're here to learn different approaches. So can you take a moment to share with us your overall approach and the model that the Richmond Office of Neighborhood Safety utilizes?
Absolutely. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for the partnership with RISE to have us here in the first place. The Office of Neighborhood Safety is a non-law enforcement governmental agency whose sole purpose is to reduce and hopefully one day eliminate gun violence in the city of Richmond. How we've decided to do that is partner with those we believe most responsible that have created the statistics that have left our city as a regular attendee on the top 10 most dangerous cities in America's list. With that partnership, we decided that we needed to engage these individuals in a way that they've never been engaged before. And so how we did that is we created what we have called the Operation Peacemaker Fellowship. Now, the 18-month fellowship is not a program. We believe it's an experience. And those who go through this experience with us are adopted into a surrogate family. And what they get from that surrogate family is what every child that grows up in a healthy, productive environment receives: love, support, and much needed resources. To justify giving this population the resources that we give them, because most folks believe that they should get nothing but prison or death, we use evidence-based practices such as mentoring, job development, life skills, cognitive behavioral therapy, transformative travel, goal setting. And we've gotten a lot of success by looking at these young men as assets and not liabilities. And what that success equates to in the city of Richmond is a 73% reduction in shootings relating to injury or death since we've started our program. So we've had 106 fellows go through the process. Many of them had to go through twice. Of those 106, 96% are alive. 80% have not been injured by a firearm since becoming a fellow. 75% are not suspected in a firearm-related offense since becoming a fellow. So literally all we've done is what I heard my president say yesterday, is we let them know that we see them, we acknowledge them, they're valuable to us, they're valuable to the community. We recognize that they're trauma survivors. Understanding that most folks growing up or living in urban America is a trauma survivor, and I think I can be confident to say in this room that almost all of us would agree that if you're a person of color living in America, you're a trauma survivor. But most folks don't respond to their trauma in this way, and we recognize that. But we just felt it incumbent upon us to realize that it is not for us to judge how they deal with their pain. It's our responsibility to help them heal from that pain so they don't use it in destructive and unhealthy ways.
Love it, love it. So what specifically about your model and approach do you believe makes it successful? And most importantly, what would it take to somebody else in this audience to implement it successfully in their communities?
Well, first, we would have never had the ability to even see if we could succeed or fail if it wasn't for the courage and the political willpower and innovation of our city council and our mayor at the time when they created the office, and the community support in making sure that something else was done because we were in dire need. Of course, the support of the city manager. But most of all, it's the only reason we have the numbers that we have in the city of Richmond is because of young men making better decisions on how they deal with their conflict. The conflict is still there. The Instagram posts are still there. The YouTube's still there. Folks still disrespecting folks on music videos. All of the conflicts still exist. It's just they're navigating them in a different way because they've gotten a healthy adult and a healthy structure around them that's going to support them and give them sound advice when they come up to that problem that they would normally respond to with violence. And any community that wants to do this has to be dedicated to that process. Our communities have been promised with things for far too long, and everybody supports it, and it's like a Band-Aid fix. We didn't get here as a nation in 2 years and 5 years and 7 years. This is 40 years of neglect, 50 years of neglect, hundreds of years of trauma. And you can't just fix it at the drop of a hat. You can't just throw money at it. You have to be dedicated. You have to make sure that it has sustainability. And you have to just recognize that this community not only deserves it, we owe it to them.
Thank you. So, speaking as a former Assistant Attorney General of the United States, the work that Richmond's Office of Neighborhood Safety is doing is not done in isolation. It takes a collaboration to pull off this kind of progress. So we are pleased to have with us Assistant Chief Bisa French of the Richmond Police Department here with us as well. So please join me in welcoming Assistant Chief French. So can you speak to us about the importance of law enforcement placing an emphasis not on the enforcement side of the equation, but prevention and intervention?
Sure. So when a lot of people think about the police, they think about the enforcement efforts, and really that's the last resort. The main thing that we want to focus on, prevention and intervention, so that we don't have to get to the law enforcement portion of it. And that's just going back to the original history of policing, that the community is the police and the police are the community. And so we realized that we needed to get back to that community component and really integrate with our community and work together to solve crime. So crime is down in Richmond over the last 10 years, just like Sam said, since the beginning of their program. It's all these strategies that have been put in place so that we can impact crime, and we have impacted crime. So it's a community and police working together, and also letting the community do their own intervention methods that don't necessarily involve the police, like the ONS program, because we know that, with the history of policing, that there is distrust with the police, and we don't have the ability to reach the people that really need to be reached when they're fully engaged in the crime element. So we need the programs that have been talked about here on stage to really reach that portion of the community that we're not able to reach.
So I love that we're hearing about the necessary partnerships and collaboration across the community. What kind of impact do you believe that the violence interruption work that Sam has described and his team is doing has had on the city of Richmond? And how can local law enforcement agencies across the country, like Richmond, support the efforts to reduce gun violence such as this one?
Well, like I said, there's a multiple prong approach to addressing violence. And I think that Sam and his team, ONS, have had the ability to really connect with the young men that are actively involved in gun violence. And those, again, are the people that we haven't been able to reach. And so that's the most important part, is that somebody's able to reach them, because without their intervention, there's only two other possibilities, and that's death or prison. And we really don't have the ability to keep locking everybody up. We want to get people on the right path. We want them to see that there's a different approach that they can take. And so Sam and his team have been able to reach those people and get them on the right path, get them out of the gun violence that's going on in our city, and which has reduced the gun violence that's going on. And to support his work, we have to realize that it's a very delicate relationship. So they have to be able to gain the trust of the community, and so working with us wouldn't necessarily that wouldn't have a positive impact. So we have to realize that it's something new, and when it started, it was something new that people didn't understand. Like a lot of our officers didn't understand, okay, we're giving them information, but why wouldn't they give us information? And the answer is that if they have the ability, if we could give them the information of people that we know may go out there and cause gun violence, and they have the ability to interrupt that, why wouldn't we give them the information? We're not expecting anything back. The goal is to stop the behavior. And if that stops the behavior, then it's a win-win situation for all of us. So we have to have good communication in which we're providing information that will be helpful for them. We have to have good understanding in what their role is in the process of interrupting gun violence in our community. And the most important part is the opportunity. We have to give them the opportunity to engage with these folks and step back and hopefully give people the opportunity to take that engagement so that we don't have to get to the enforcement portion.
So as you can see, these programs have had really significant results, and we're trying to just give you quick highlights, but hopefully you'll use those apps to connect with them and ask additional questions. But what I want to do is give each panelist an opportunity to talk to the community we have here. There are a lot of community leaders, youth advocates, activists, mentors in this audience today. And for those who are focused on keeping our young people and our communities free from violence so that our young people have an opportunity to be the leaders we know they can be, what message do you want to leave with each of them today? So I'll start with you, Miguel.
Okay. Well, I think collaboration is key. One of our community partners was invited as a MBK member and affiliate who does a lot of the outreach work in the communities that we work in. I think learning how to work together and understand that it takes a village to raise a child. The average participant in Ready Chicago is between the ages of 18 and 32, and of the 720 that have been referred to us, about 320 have taken on the job. And it is a real disservice to our communities not to work together, to figure out how we continue to provide opportunities for the persons that we're expected to love and nurture and develop as a community. Healing communities is where we need to go into these futures of where we got to get to. It's a public health crisis to see so many men of color dying on these streets and not caring as a community and not caring enough to kind of stand up and do something as a community, but we can't do it in isolation. So I really encourage everybody to sort of take that up as a cause. A couple of weeks ago, I was sharing backstage, Chicago had its polar vortex. So those of you from California who feel this is cold, you have no idea what negative 40 felt like. I think the penguins were laughing at us from the Arctic. But during that same time, I was telling folks that I expected a low turnout of participants once we opened up our doors again, just because of the mere cold, and we probably had the highest participation rate of the year. And around a couple weeks before that, we had a participant who, in a South Side neighborhood, needed to leave work early for about 10 minutes. And less than a mile away from his work site, he was gunned down and shot 19 times at a gas station on his way to go see his mother. So the call to action that I always try to share with people is that the work that you do, the work that brought you here to Oakland, it is life or death work for a lot of us. And I really encourage you all to understand that, and in collaboration, construct solutions in your local neighborhoods to address that.
Thank you. Chief?
I'm inspired to see so many people here today, because that means that people are willing to get involved in their communities. And so my thing is there has to be understanding. Everybody has a role. Law enforcement has a role. Community has a role. Community-based organizations and other city agencies like ONS everybody has a role. And so getting a deeper understanding of what everybody's role is and how we could put those all together to make better, safer communities.
Thank you. Sam, you're going to close us out.
All right. So I think everything that the MBK Challenge represents is important. Job development, education, better schools, better food, better services. But I think it's very important, and it's a moral dilemma for some people to engage, the young people that I refer to. And if you're not engaging them effectively, you have a young person who's trying to do right, who's going to work, who needed to leave 10 minutes early, and who was killed at a gas station because you've isolated a sample group of whom we're trying to serve. They have been deemed unworthy, and they are acting as such. We have created this system for folks to fall by the wayside, and it's a symptom. Violence is a symptom of the greater problem, and how dare us give young people blankets with smallpox and then be mad at them when they get sick. And so collectively, every young person of color matters in these communities, and let us not do what we've been taught by isolating folks and thinking that we're better than some, that we're smarter than some, or that we can do more than someone else because we've had a better opportunity, or we've had that coach or that grandma or whatever it was that we got that helped us achieve greater things than most around us. Be grateful for it. Don't be conceited because of it. And so you young people have an opportunity to do something that we are trying to accomplish, but we should have done years ago. I want to apologize to you all for failing you, because I know there was a me somewhere in your community that failed you, that didn't see the value in you. And don't repeat our mistakes. You're amazing. I look forward to being old and gray and looking back and seeing all the accomplishments that we've done as a community. And it's going to be because of your strength, your courage, your leadership, and your determination to refuse to let your children live how you may have lived. So thank you. You all are the heroes.
So I want to thank our panelists who represent the wonderful work that's happening across all of our MBK communities, but I especially want to thank our young men who are helping us understand what it is you need from us. And I can tell you that everyone here in this audience surrounding you, we are investing in you. You are our future, and we believe in you. So thank you for giving us an opportunity to work with you and to hear from you and to have your leadership as we work in this together. So thanks, everybody.